idea with Headwaters was that I would come to the Boulder Batholith and travel and hike and live here and just sort of take in the area, go home, let it stew, and think about a dance, a structure, and come back and set it on Headwaters. And so I started in Butte, went through Boulder Basin, and ended up in Helena last night, and here we are in Garnett Ghost Town. Fitting ending, because as I've traveled, I realized how much mining has defined the culture and the people and the landscape of this place. History is so there. You have these abandoned buildings, but they're kind of screaming at you, their history. And the abandoned mines and the head frames and these abandoned buildings here. I feel like maybe history is going to have to come up through the floorboards. It's all around us, all these souls buried, they're not marked. Hundreds of thousands of years. It's all over the place. The people who left are really here in some incredibly powerful spiritual way. And it's that feeling out here that your relationship to the land is so private, yet it's so huge. You have so much space around you. But I think it would translate, instead of a duet where people are kind of politely close to each other, might be a duet where people are really, really far away.
Amy Ragsdale, who directs Headwaters, was thinking about this region of northern Montana, was thinking about, oh, who could be a really interesting person to sort of try and address this part of Montana and this landscape. And I guess Jane Comfort, when she was here, she's like, oh, you should get John Jaspers. And he's really into this huge spaces and this idea about like emptiness. And if there's anybody who can do emptiness, it's John Jaspers. I have never really done a piece that's based on a site, but for me this is kind of a new thing. It has a lot to do with space and density and rhythm and the feel of things. you not only in a place in terms of society and culture, but in some kind of a level of a spiritual level of like connecting to these sort of fundamental life principles that I think you definitely see how that changes these people as humans. This environment attracts a certain kind of person, but even within that, there's an enormous amount of diversity that then somehow can't just be ignored or pushed aside in the same kind of a way that it can in an environment where there are a lot more people. So in some way, you're forced to confront that other. You're forced to confront the wind, you know, because it's there and it's not going away. And I think that something about that maybe teaches us something about how we are kind of connected, like how we're connected to the wind and how we're connected to that person who says that stuff that we just can't stand and is never going to change.
My journey into the Rockies has been to discover acts of water. The idea that water has been what's made Montana possible and all other life as well, but specifically here, life in Montana. And all migration followed the path of water, and all settlements followed the positions of water. So without water, man would cease to exist. We are water. Nature and all of its peaceful and violent actions have gone into many dances that I've made. Things move in curves. It's said that all space is curved, and to me, curvaceousness is a way of moving that suits the human body. And I think the body moves in curves the way that space moves in curves. And the way rivers move in curves, and wind moves in curves. The water is the center of life, one way or another. Or spiritually you're connected to it, which I think is a very, very important aspect of what being near water is about. I think Montana is spiritually connected to water.
When Amy told me some of the significant points in this place, Custer's Last Stand, or what is now known as Little Bighorn, and the Crow Indian Reservation and the Northern Cheyenne Reservation, I told her, well, that's a loaded gun. There are these two kind of lifelines that seem to be very important to this area, southeastern area of Montana. The river and the railroad. They can serve as a metaphor for so many things. One is lifeline. Obviously, the ranchers and the farmers, which are a major part of this area, completely depend on the water. And so I had this image of like these copper bowls full of water, and that you would hear water in these copper bowls that has this kind of sound to them, and that it would be the women in the company, the dance company, wringing out these shirts and then actually putting on these wet shirts. Like, it's not super comfortable. And I think that the life here that I've seen so far, it's harsh. It's not super comfortable, but it is comfortable in terms of the beauty. Also, water has a metaphor for flexibility. It flows. It also can represent tears, but it also can represent nurturing new growth for something else. And hopefully I'll water my dance. I don't know.